So I've got an agenda. I'm just going to quickly whiz through this because it's just really covering what I'm going to talk about this evening. The reason why we should all be getting compliant as landlords and what changes to legislation have been. I'm going to touch on a few pieces of legislation because there is so much out there. So today I'm going to look at the Deregulation Act and the Section 21 notices, the minimum energy efficiency standards, which is easy for everyone to say, and just sort of touch on the future, what actually is on the horizon and what's coming. So, this is how I feel every day. I don't know about anybody else when we're talking about legislation and compliance. It is a bit of a headache, and obviously it is a bit of a minefield as well. So, why do we need to be compliant? Well, we've always needed to protect our investment and our tenants, but now going forwards, there's a lot of differences and a lot of changes been coming in recently. Local authorities are now clamping down on landlords in various ways. There's increased fines. There's an introduction of a road landlord database. Now that came in probably about 6 months ago, and initially it was local authorities only that could access it. Now Joe Public can get their hands on this as well. There's also now access to funding for local authorities to actually employ people whose sole purpose in life is to root out road landlords. And what they're also being able to do now is the fines used to go back to central government. They're now going to be able to keep them locally. And what it also means is if they catch you out as a road landlord, and I'm not saying anybody's a road landlord here today, they can close your property down for 3 months or even prevent you from renting your property at all. So we've all got to be thinking about this now, thinking about legislation. So how do I know this? How do I know things are changing? All you've got to do is Google. A landlord in Burnley was ordered to pay more than £56,000 under selective licensing. Another one in Waltham Forest, the council can now fine you up to £30,000. Another one, £20,000. And more recently, the Housing Minister announced that there's £2 million funded for local authorities to tackle road landlords. Now obviously £2 million isn't a lot of money, but if you've got a canny local authority, which I know Bedford is, they'll be bidding for that money, they'll be employing someone who'll be out there looking to get as much money out of landlords as possible. So we need to be aware of that. So, hands up, because you're all falling asleep. Who actually is a landlord? Right. Hands up, who's a new landlord? Who's been in the game over 5 years? Over 10? Wow. So you know how things have changed. If we just take a little look at this, you might not be able to see it at the back. What that's basically showing us is that in 1998, all that we really needed to do was a tenancy agreement and gas safety. And as you can see, over the years, they've been piling on more and more legislation. So how much is there now? I know some of you have sneaked the pack already, so you might already know the answer to this question. How many pieces of legislation do you think affect the private rented sector? Do you want to have a guess? Anyone?
5.
Over 50. Anybody else on over 50?
Over 100.
You know, because I'm always telling you. There's actually over 150 pieces of legislation that affect the private rented sector. And as landlords, we have to be aware of all of that. So, going back to this, let's talk about the Deregulation Act. Oops, gone too far. What I'm going to talk about is prescribed information. As landlords, do we understand what that means?
Yeah.
Well,
You should do.
under the Deregulation Act that came in 2015, the prescribed information, what that actually means is you have to serve certain pieces of paper to your tenant before they move in. And there are 3 elements. The first one being the how to rent guide. Have we come across this? Do you know it's got to be up to date? Do we all know what version we're at the minute? Well, this is where it's interesting because the government don't tell us when they're changing this format. You've just got to find it. 23rd of June, roughly, they reissued another one of these and said, going forwards, you need to be issuing that to your tenants. Within 5 days, they realised they'd made a mistake and changed the format. But they didn't tell anybody. Sorry, what was that? What that effectively means, if we've been serving the wrong one, you can't serve notice on your tenant. On top of that, you need to be serving the energy performance certificate. Now, I'm going to touch on that later, but obviously, and a gas safety certificate. Now, it's not just a matter of serving it, you need to make sure your tenant acknowledges that you've done that, and you need to keep a record, because if you don't, and you get problems towards the end, you will not be able to serve a Section 21 notice.
Don't agents do both of those things?
They should. They should. But I would be, if you're with an agent, just make sure. The good test would be to see if they've got the right how to rent guide. Because like I say, the government don't tell us when they're changing that. You've got to be on the ball, you've got to be keeping an eye on that.
So, does the how to rent guide have a date actually stamped on the front of it somewhere?
It does. The latest one, I think, says July 2018. They've not changed it very often, but we had, like I said, a little hiccup in June where they made a mistake and then changed it within a short period of time. And a lot of people miss that. No, that's one lot of prescribed information. Oh, go on, sorry.
The house rent guide, is that for new tenants or would that mean your
If it's an existing tenancy that's already had the house to rent guide, you wouldn't need to reserve it. However, if you've got a tenant on a rolling contract pre-2015, you probably will need to serve it because this came in on the 1st of October. So just make sure if you've got a tenant that's been with you for a long time and you're not quite sure, I'd serve it just to be on the safe side, because if you get further down the line want to serve notice on them, it's going to be problematic. So that's one lot of prescribed information. Did you realise there's another lot?
Deposits?
Yeah. So as Brenda from Bristol would say, not another one. Yeah. The second lot of prescribed information is where you've got to serve certain pieces of information about where your deposit is registered. And you've also got to register your deposit within a certain period of time. Now, do we know what that period of time is?
30 days?
It's come down from 4 to 2 weeks, I think.
It was 14 days and then it changed with the Localism Act when it came in and it's now 30.
Oh,
Yeah. Tell me if I'm wrong, Mr. Tunney, is that right?
correct.
Right. Problem with it, if you forget or your agent forgets to serve that notice within 30 days or forgets to protect the deposit within 30 days and you go, pardon me French, shit, I forgot, I better protect that deposit, horse has already bolted. You've already committed an offence. And if you've got a canny tenant who maybe be problematic further down the line, not only can you not serve notice, they could end up suing you for considerable amounts of money.
Or we can counter-sue our agents, yeah?
Yeah, if you've got an agent, yeah. I mean, that's why we have professional indemnity insurance, but it shouldn't be happening because that clock starts ticking as soon as you take that deposit. Now, the reason I know this is happening is because if you look online now, you've got these ambulance chasing type setups who are actually attracting tenants, not only on Google, but on social media. Shelter is famous for it. So we need to be careful. So if you need to check with your agents to make sure they're doing it right, and if you're a landlord and you're managing yourself, make sure as soon as that money comes in, get it registered and get the right prescribed information out to your tenant.
Think of it as a hot potato. As soon as that deposit goes in, get it registered now.
I would, well,
So if you've got one that hasn't been done correctly,
yeah.
can you fix it? I know you shouldn't
You can
fix it,
fix
but
it
once
to a degree.
I go home, I check it and I go, oh bugger, I can go and fix it now and I'm okay.
The only way you could possibly fix it, but you're not going to completely fix it, and this is about the relationship you have with your tenant. You can either get it served straight away, protect it and get the prescribed information served, but you've still committed that offence. So these people will know that. So you could still end up getting a claim because it's too late. But if you wanted to serve notice, that's the best way. You either get the information, serve, protect the deposit, serve the information, and serve the notice. The other option you've got is you return the deposit to the tenant, which you probably don't really want to do, but that is the probably only way around it. But this is still evident. I had a landlord that I dealt with who I inherited him and his tenant, and he said he'd take a deposit, and he said he didn't take a deposit, he'd used it for her rent arrears. She had evidence that he had a deposit. Now, the only way we could solve the problem was by returning that deposit to the tenant, but she was still shouting about this. So, just to be aware of it.